It is getting hot in Southern Cali, but it's not as hot as the mess that Martin Luther King was involved in some years ago. Although King Drew opened in 1972, actually it was King/Drew. It opened in 1972 with the promise that it would be the very best hospital in America. It became, by various measures, one of the very worst. Killer King is what we called it. It was so bad and had such a horrific reputation that if someone literally, and I'm not even joking, if somebody lived right next door to the hospital, they demand to be taken to another hospital in another area, afraid they would not come out alive. It was that tragic. Go in for a minor injury and you never leave out alive. I'm not playing. It was that serious. I'll be back. Hey everyone, welcome back. Thank you for coming back, and let's get into this. I recently this is the reason why I decided to do a video on Martin Luther King, because of the noticeable, huge, big, good change that the hospital has undergone since I last, went there. And last time I believe I went there with someone else was probably the end of the 90s or early 2000s. And, I was praying, thanking God that they come out of the hospital the same way they went in. And you think I'm playing? I'm not. I recently had to take a family member to MLK Hospital for personal reasons. And I took notice, as I said, of its very noticeable, impressive transformation. MLK Hospital actually looks like a hospital scene on the other side of town. Those who know. Anywho, there was a time when you wouldn't be caught going to that facility if you stood a chance of taking your last breath. You might think I'm exaggerating. As I said, I'm not, seriously. But as a child, I heard how bad adults would talk about that medical facility. And I used to have a cousin that used to joke all the time. She would say, she don't care what state she's in, medical state she's in. Do not take her to Killer Kings. That's what she used to always say. It wasn't even known as Martin Luther King. It was known as Killer Kings. And you know what I find so offensive is why the majority of things that are in our communities that are supposed to stand or represent something good, they always seem to have this horrible, dark stigma, all the time. That hospital, I can't talk about Martin Luther King Hospital without bringing up the Watts Riot, for which that was one of the reasons the hospital came about. So let's get into that. MLK Jr. General Hospital was built in response to the 1965 Watts Riot. The hospital was opened in 1972 and was intended to serve the community, particularly in South Central Los Angeles, which had been underserved by medical facilities. See, it's always, you can go to any city in America, you always find that black communities are always underserved. And before you come in and say, oh my God, you guys just got to do better. Okay, people do better. It's, contrary to what you would like to think, that we're actually sitting our asses on the curb, twiddling our thumbs because we don't know our head from our feet, is a stigma. And it's very untrue. Okay, let's go on. The Watts Riot began on August the 11th, 1965, following a relatively minor traffic stop. involving a few white police officers and a small group of black residents. The violence ended 6 days later when an estimated 10,000 rioters returned to their homes, order finally having been restored after a declaration of martial law and deployment of the National Guard. The McCone Commission found the destruction-related statistics staggering. 34 were unalive, 1,032 injured, including 90 Los Angeles police officers, 136 firemen, 10 National Guardsmen, 23 persons from other governmental agencies, 773 civilians. 118 of the injuries resulted from gunshot wounds, 3,438 adults arrested, and property losses in excess of $40 million in 1965. And it today, I think this article was written in 2004, that was equivalent to $277 million. 8 days after the riot, then Governor Edmund Brown assembled an investigation group called the McCone Commission. They always, after something happened in the black community, they always want to assemble some, always want to do some kind of studying. To me, that indicates that you know there's a problem, that you know it's a problem other than the people you're blaming for the problems. Because if you really believe that it was just a black problem because black people are inferior and lazy and just don't know their ass from their head, you wouldn't be spending all this time and money doing investigations. You know what the root of the problem is. And those who have looked at a lot of my videos, I have 2 videos called the Kerner Report. And in the 60s, after the Watts Riot, they conducted that report, all white people. They did a report interviewing black folks in low-income areas and including Hispanics, and they determined after the report was concluded that racism was black people's problems. But then you got a lot of biased racist politicians and Sambos and Boulay up there putting the problem of the black community on the shoulders of the black community. That's unfair and it's unjust, and you guys are just going to reap what you keep sowing. Okay, let's go on. The group held the responsibility of exploring the root causes of the uprising and made recommendations to Congress on what some of the remedies should be to help residents of South LA. Listen to the remedies. They know it's not black folks' problems, but they want to keep that's a part of the problem. That's a part of the psychological mind effing game that they're doing against everyone. And so sad, it's so unfortunate that so many people have failed or become victims of the mind effing games. Let's go on. The commission released the 1965 McCone Report, which stated that upgrading health care services in South LA would increase the chances of overall improvement of health conditions in residents of the area who felt neglected in resources for medical attention. The report focused on what it called the Negro problem, which when you call it a Negro problem, it's everybody's problem, because okay, let's go on. The more you keep trying to oppress black folks, you're going to end up oppressing everybody. But acknowledge that the challenges facing the disposed extended to others. The rioting, according to McCone Commission report, is a part of an American problem which involves Negroes, but which equally concerns other disadvantaged groups. I just said that. And I didn't read that before I said it. Our major conclusions and recommendations regarding the Negro problem in Los Angeles apply with equal force to the Mexican Americans, a community which is almost equal in size to the Negro community. And this was in 65. They said almost equal. The Mexican community was almost equal. You see how that came? You see how that ended up tripling and quadrupling because they came in with crack. They came in with crack cocaine, and it literally just destroyed the economic structure that black middle class had. It really did. You guys don't even know how wealthy a lot of black people were, especially the ones that lived in Compton, California. They were very wealthy. You don't even know how many black people own businesses and own their own property before crack. It was intentional. They wanted to wipe us out. See how resilient we are? Let's go on. Like I said many times, if they couldn't do it during slavery, when some of them had, legal rights to just take our people out, you think they can do it now? Come on now. Stop the fear mongering. And then I saw, off topic a little bit, I saw a video where a woman was saying that Trump said that someone, the black community has been asking him for help, and he supposedly came up with a solution for martial law in only black communities. First of all, do you know that would be a violation of our civil rights? Do you know that would be blatant discrimination? Like, you cannot just apply martial law only to our community, because first of all, not all black people are out there running amok. No, they're not. Just like not all white people are racist, right? Just like not all Hispanics are over here illegally. So to apply that martial law only to our communities, you're going to have a situation. Because a lot of people who are not participating in the shenanigans in the streets are not going to let you just sit there and put them on lockdown because of what a few other people are doing. Just like you lay that whole blanket of racism on the whole white community in this country, they not going to stand for it and let you call all white people in America racist, even though it might appear that way sometimes. So let's go on. They said Mexican Americans, a community which is almost equal in the size of to the Negro. Then I forgot, I went and started talking about what happened before crack. Okay. And whose circumstances are similarly disadvantageous and demand equally urgent treatment. The Macomb Commission report would initiate a debate that continues to this day in one form or another about the underlying causes of urban violence. I keep telling you guys that poverty breeds violence. Poverty actually breeds violence. And you guys want to keep ignoring that. When people are frustrated and then you tell them, hey, pull yourself up by the bootstraps, go out there and get your job, Negro. And then you go and then you're unfairly, discriminated against. Look how long it took them to advance Martin Luther King Hospital. The hospital has been in existence since 72. And here we are, 2025. And they just got an upgrade in 2015, 2017. Come on. Keep on. It's sitting there acting like you don't see this pink elevating. Martin Luther King said that when the riots are the voices of people who are unheard, something like that. It's so sad that they have to resort to destruction of their own communities just to be heard. But here's the thing. They feel like it's not their communities anyway, because the majority of businesses in their communities not owned by them. And then they made it so damn hard to own property, buy houses, deny loans, even if you have stellar credit and you have income. Okay, let's go on. The commission called the conditions a spiral of failure. It documented the educational, employment, housing, health, and welfare deficits which afflicted the roughly 400,000 Black Americans residents living in the curfew area. This article was written in 2010. In response to that report, then 8th District Los Angeles County Supervisor Kenneth Hahn made it his mission to bring emergency health care to the area. The hospital was founded as a response to the Watts Riots in honor of civil rights pioneer Martin Luther King Jr. It was a sign of hope and change for a city recuperating from violence and low-quality medical services. The hospital then opened in 1972 to the general public and was licensed for 461 beds. A lot of people believe the community of Watts didn't need a hospital, but my father believed it, said Rep. Janice Hahn, daughter of the late Kenneth Hahn. Eventually, through a lot of effort, my father was able to get put on the ballot to have the people of the country vote to issue money for the hospital. He always believed that everyone deserved proper health care services. The lack of hospital care was really one of the biggest holes in the community, along with jobs and money. When my father was there, it was a really good hospital. He always made sure they had all the equipment it needed to be a good hospital, said Hahn. However, reports have shown that problems and patient lapse started soon after the hospital opened. In 2003, the hospital faced crises like untimely patient deaths due to neglect. In February of 2005, the hospital lost its seal of approval from the Joint Commission of Accreditation of Healthcare Organizations. King Drew Hospital soon became the smallest of the county's 4 general hospitals, decreasing down to 357 beds by 2006. Okay. They talk about why the Watts Riots are considered a catalyst for the hospital's construction. A lack of adequate medical facilities prior to the hospital's opening, the area lacked a major medical centers to serve the community needs, especially in the aftermath of the riots. Riots exposed healthcare disparities. The Watts Riots highlighted the lack of access to quality healthcare for residents in the area, leading to the decision to build a new hospital. Community need and hope. The hospital was seen as a symbol of hope and progress for the community and was designed to provide better access to medical services. Boy, there's a whole much I want to say about that, but there are so many other things you guys could have put in the community as well, not just the hospital, to give people hope in underserved communities. It's underserved for a reason. That's why it's called underserved. There are some folks that understand why I keep emphasizing underserved. You get it, don't you? Okay, let's go on. It might have gone down as the unalive of a quasi-transient. This is one of the main reasons they took MLK Hospital out of commission. And it was so disturbing. It was disgusting and deplorable how they did this woman. Check this out. Woman with a history. They said it might have gone down as the death of a quasi-transient woman with a history of abusing rugs. That's how the May 9th death of Edith Isabel Rodriguez was initially reported to the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office. I believe this happened in 2008. Yeah. Okay, let's go on. But 5 weeks later, her demise has become a cause célèbre, a symbol of bureaucratic indifference. It is fraught with significance, not just from one struggling inner city hospital, but for political and health leaders in the Los Angeles area and perhaps beyond. The county sheriff's department, health officials, and the board of supervisors all are feverishly trying to determine who was to blame and how to prevent a recurrence. Oh my God. Despite a long history of problems at MLK Junior Hospital, 2 things set the Rodriguez case apart. The existence of a security videotape showing the woman riffing for 45 minutes on the floor of the emergency room lobby, and the public release this week of 2 911 calls in which witnesses unsuccessfully pleaded with sheriff's dispatchers for help. Now, the situation was so dire and so terrible that you had 2 people calling from within the emergency room for help. You see how ironic that? They were actually in the emergency room calling outside for help. God, that was terrible. The case, first reported by the Times, has crystallized people's fears that even in their most desperate moments, the emergency system won't take them seriously. The videotape itself has not even been made public. Mere descriptions of its content by those who have seen it have evoked outrage. Here's a person crying for help when no one helped, said Arthur Kaplan, a bioethics at the University of Pennsylvania, who discussed the case on CNN this week. What kind of society are we? We can't even render aid to someone who is in their own blood and vomit on the floor, and you're mopping around them. It's a kind of morality tale of a society gone cold. Gone cold. It's been cold for a long time. Marcela Sanchez Rodriguez's sister. It could be you. It could be your mom, your baby, your sister. Unfortunately, it was my sister. I wonder if they let her family see that video. Nearly every major broadcast network was devoted or had devoted segments to what happened to the 43-year-old woman. The death has even become fodder in an emerging debate over the U.S. healthcare system. Filmmaker Michael Moore, whose new documentary Sicko chronicles the system's problem, has added a photo of Rodriguez to his website with the phrase "Die trying." As new details have emerged, public officials have hastened to show their concern. The Sheriff's Department said Thursday it will review a second time the way the dispatchers handle the 911 calls from Rodriguez's boyfriend and a female bystander. One dispatcher curtly told the bystander that the situation was not an emergency. The other said there was nothing she could do because Rodriguez was already in a hospital. Previously, the department had provided written counseling to the dispatcher, who was curt. Now, I'm going to add the video and I believe audio that I found. I want you guys to listen to it now.
Impact segment tonight. 43-year-old Edith Rodriguez died last month in the emergency room of the Martin Luther King Harbor Hospital in Los Angeles. Apparently, Ms. Rodriguez lay bleeding on the floor of the ER, and no one helped her. No one. Situation was so intense that her husband called 911.
Hey, the emergency room, my wife is dying, and the nurses don't want to help her out.
Okay, what do you mean she's dying?
She's vomiting blood.
Well, after that, another patient in the ER also made the 911 call.
Which emergency? Lady on the ground, and we're in the emergency room, and Martin Luther King, and they are overlooking her claims that she's been discharged, and she's definitely sick, and everybody's ignoring her.
What do you want me to do for you, ma'am?
Yes, the ambulance got her to take her somewhere where she can get medical help.
You're at the hospital, ma'am. You have to contact them.
They have a problem. They won't help her.
Well, you know, they're the medical professionals. Okay, you're already at a hospital.
Okay, and the woman died. Now, joining us from L.A., Joe Hicks.
Yep, it was bad. So let's continue. Meanwhile, county health officials are finalizing their response due today to a federal report citing serious inadequacies in a way Rodriguez was treated. And they are reviewing the conduct of all emergency room workers, including contract physicians who evaluated Rodriguez over the 3 days before she died, but each time found nothing seriously wrong. You wouldn't even let a dog be tormented like that. What kind of heart do you have to have or not have a heart to watch someone writhing on the floor for 45 minutes? No, where was the staff? Where were the nurses? Where was the technicians? Where was the doctors? Oh my God. She died of a perforated bile, which probably developed in the last 24 hours of her life, according to a coroner report. So they basically didn't even examine her. They just was like, girl, what do you want? Go sit down and we'll call you when we're ready. We'll call you, don't call us type attitude. Let's go on. Rodriguez, a California native, was poor and uninsured. She reportedly had a history of narcotic use and lived with various relatives. Many people like her die. Their cases forgotten by everyone but friends and family. Yep. When I found that story, I couldn't believe it. I don't even remember hearing it. I don't. And as I sat there reading the article, I just was like stunned silent. Yeah, when they did the report, the investigation, they found, entire departments were riddled with incompetence, internal strife, and in some cases, criminality. Employees have pilfered and sometimes sold the hospital drugs. Chronic absenteeism is rampant. Assaults between hospital workers are not uncommon. Despite King Drew's repeated promises to regulators, the problems have gone unfixed for years. The people in charge, they just was getting their check and going home. Like, girl, please, I'm off the clock. Don't you see it's 5 o'clock? I'll deal with it when I deal with it. Oh, my God. Here's one in a series of cases allegedly mishandled by Martin Luther King Hospital, formerly known as King Drew. In 1994, a woman was infected with HIV after the hospital mistakenly gave her a transfusion with blood that had tested positive for the virus. What the fuck? Ooh. Wow. Had me slipping and tripping just now. But how do you do that? Isn't that blood labeled a certain way and put separately so that, things like that don't happen? I mean, no. Oh my goodness. Years later, a woman died after drinking a glass of tissue. What? Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a minute. How do you do? Years later, a woman died after drinking a glass of tissue preservative left by her bedside. How the tissue preservative? I gotta look that up. What is tissue preservative? Let's look that up right quick. Right quick, right fast. My God. Ooh. Tissue preservatives are chemical solutions or methods used to prevent tissue degradation and maintain its structural and cellular integrity for long-term storage and oh my God. How do you do that? How do you do that? How do you leave that kind of fatal chemical near a I'm stung. I'm really stung again. In 2000, a 9-year-old died from a cascade of errors stemming from treatment of two broken teeth. More recently, nurses have been faulted for turning down the alarms on cardiac monitors and not noticing when the patients went into distress and died. Girl, I'm about to go turn this machine down because I'll be trying to get a nap in, because after I leave, you know what I'm gonna do. So, these machines, they be too damn loud. This sound like a B movie. This sound like really like it's fake. Like somebody just sat down and wrote this really messed up bad screenplay. Okay. King's Hospital reputation dropped to the bottom ranking among American teaching hospitals and became rocked by allegations of incompetence, medical errors, and needless deaths. Everybody on them staffs during that time that happened, everybody on the staff during the time those things happened that could have been avoidable, should have been, brought up on criminal charges. Because when you're in the medical field, whatever position you're in, you're trained to be very in tune to what you're doing, because it can be life or death situation. Okay, let's go on. Woo! A Pulitzer Prize winning series published in 2004 in the Los Angeles Times recounted appalling stories. A meningitis patient being given a powerful anti-cancer drug for 4 days. Employees stealing and selling hospital drugs. And then they said the nurses failing to monitor patients' vital signs, medical mistakes. The Times reported cost the county more than $20 million in malpractice payments from 1999 to 2003. In a particularly harrowing tale from 2007, a woman died, and then they talked about Edith Rodriguez. It was on the hospital surveillance. You know what? It was on the hospital surveillance camera that showed the janitor mopping. What'd they do to the janitor? I know he couldn't have touched her, put his hands on her, for insurance purposes, reasons, and because he, wasn't he wasn't a doctor or nurse, but you just mopped and didn't go and say, Nurse Ratchet, where are you to come help this woman? Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, call into emergency room. We need you. He could have dropped that mop and went and got help. Dragged their asses about whatever room they was hiding in. Oh my God. Alan Avant, who grew up in Watts, didn't think the Killer King moniker was related to its reputation for poor care. A lot of people would go in there for gunshot wounds and end up unalived, said Avant 58, adding, he always considered it to be a good hospital, but those breakdowns in care eventually caused the hospital to lose its accreditation and shut its doors. The closure forced many residents to travel longer distances for care or simply to forego it altogether. Okay. One of my family members that I had to take to the hospital over a month ago, one of my family members called me and was telling me what was going on, when my family member was being or had been seen by the doctor, and it just was kind of peculiar to me, and I didn't like it. So I called the supervisor, and I spoke to the supervisor of the ER, and I told him how I felt and what was described to me over the phone. And I was like, hold up, why would he do that? Why wouldn't he ask to examine, thoroughly examine the cause for which, the person went to your hospital? And, so after that, they got great care. So I was wondering if I hadn't called, would the care have been seeming to be subpar? Okay, let me go on, because I can't really go into details because it's not my issue, and I have to respect this person's privacy. But I don't know. But they ended up getting great care though. Anyone who lives in the Los Angeles area or near Southern California, you guys should go check out that facility. They really did an excellent job. They did. You see that facility, you would think that facility was, deep west, where the people that supposedly have money live. Yeah. Took that long to get it up there, but it's there. So you guys should check it out. Ridley Thomas, a former state assemblyman and senator, was sworn in as a member of the Board of Supervisors December 1st, 2008. Charged with representing about 2 million people in Los Angeles' 2nd District, an area that includes the hospital and some of the most marginalized and troubled parts of the county. He advocated for the hospital's closure, calling its substandard conditions completely unacceptable and indefeasible. The hospital's governing body, the County Board of Supervisors, have been told repeatedly, often in writing, of needless deaths and injuries at King. Recently, the supervisors have made some aggressive moves aimed at fixing the hospital, but for years the board shied away from decisive action in the face of community anger and accusations of racism. Yeah, that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen in a black community. They would have sued the crap out of that entire hospital, board members, staff's parents, and grandparents. King, founded in the aftermath of the '65 Watts Riot, has stood for more than 3 decades as a symbol of justice and political power to many black people in South Los Angeles and beyond. In reality, if not officially, the hospital was established by and for black Americans. The majority of its staff always has been black, and you see how it was ran. It was ran like, we don't give a F about what's going on over there. Stop calling us. Get it together. That's how it was ran. And then I know some people are, that's proof how inferior you guys were or are. No, it's not. It's not proof of that. That's not proof of inferiority. That's proof that sometimes people do effed up things, and it doesn't matter what position you have. I mean, look at our politics. Look at our politicians. Look at our presidents. Look at the effed up things they're doing. And majority of them are white. So what do you have to say about that? Let's go on. Executive leaders at Martin Luther King Jr. Community Hospital discussed the organization's journey to achieve HIMSS Analytics Stage 7 and meeting the healthcare needs of the underserved community. The new private nonprofit MLK Community Hospital is smaller than the previous hospital with 131 beds, has a new management structure, and was built as a state-of-the-art all-digital hospital that serves as a safety net for the local community, according to MLK Community Hospital officials. While MLK shares the same ground as its predecessor, the new hospital is operated in a different healthcare landscape, one in which hospital leadership can leverage technology and digital tools to provide high quality care to an urban underserved community of about 1.3 million people. The hospital operates in a partnership with Los Angeles County and the University of California. One of the benefits and opportunities of creating a brand new hospital and a brand new healthcare organization is that we were able to look for best practices from every area and incorporate those best practices. And we could build an infrastructure that could support future healthcare delivery, Bachelor says. We were fully unencumbered by technology and the systems that you would have in a hospital that have been open for many years, says Tracy Dongan, MLK CH Chief Information and Innovation Officer. We were able to implement a fully integrated electronic health record from the get-go. Built from the ground up, MLK Community Health incorporates technology into every aspect of its design, from the facility itself to serve delivery to post-discharge care. According to Bachelor, we deliberately sought the technology and used the technology as we designed our policies, procedures, and approaches to care delivery from the beginning, she says. The hospital was recognized by HIMSS Analytics, the analytics arm of the Healthcare Information and Management Systems Society, at Stage 6 on the EMR, Electronic Medical Record adoption model in its first year operation. This year, the hospital was recognized as HIMSS Stage 7 for EHR best practices, a status achieved by only 6.4% of hospitals nationwide by the end of 2017. The inpatient facility was constructed to integrate technology into care delivery. All inpatient beds are smart beds that weigh each patient automatically each day and record the findings in the patient's EHR. The smart beds also detect when a patient is getting out of the bed and can alert the attending nurse if the patient is deemed a fall risk, Dogan says. Inpatient rooms also are wired with MyStation technology for patient interaction. By using the TV in the patient's room, we can engage the patient in health education when he or she first arrives at the hospital. They take a fall risk assessment on their TVs, and that's integrated with the EHR so that clinicians are notified of patients with a fall risk. The hospital clinical staff carry secure smartphones that interface with the EHR system and inpatient biomedical devices. We also have over 3 dozen unique medical devices integrated with the EHR, and that was unique and progressive at the time we opened the hospital. The hospital opened with clinical protocols programmed into EHR systems that helps clinicians practice in a manner that's consistent with best practices and evidence. Technology is really about supporting high quality patient care and patient safety. Hospital leadership also deployed technology tools to compensate for a shortage of physicians in the community. The entire hospital is wired for telemedicine, and telemedicine services are provided by physicians at UCLA Medical Center. One of the areas where we use telemedicine is in our labor and delivery area, where we use teleneoanthology. We also use teleradiology, teleneurology, telepsychiatry in an area that has a severe shortage of physicians. Telemedicine is a huge benefit to link residents to premier healthcare centers and to give them access to high quality care, Bachelor says. And I like telemedicine for them days that you need to see a doctor, but maybe you just don't feel like driving, or you can't drive. Maybe you're really not feeling good, or you're feeling unwell, or you can't, Beyond hardwiring technology into the inpatient facility, MAK Community Hospital executive and IT leaders also integrated technology into patient care plans. Each patient in the hospital, even those in the ED, is assigned a care coordinator, and the goal of reducing readmissions and providing targeted care to each patient. The EHR is integrated with dashboards and population health management tools for disease management and patient tracking. One of the things that's important to us is continuous quality improvement, and because we have such a great health information system, we also have access to real-time information about what's happening with our patients, what's happening with care that we're providing, and it fuels our ability to monitor performance and improve that performance over time, Bachelor said. What's more, MLK Community Hospital leadership are focused upstream from hospital care to prevention, disease management, and community health. We are able to collect information about our population and approach our care delivery from population health management perspective. We're not just focused on what we are doing when our patients are within the 4 walls of our organization, but we're thinking about what they need before they get here, what they need after they leave, and we're able to invest in building out other parts of the delivery system and just managing that whole continuum of care, Bachelor says. To this end, in December 2016, MLK Hospital launched its first outpatient medical practice advanced care clinic with a post-discharge clinic and specialty care, and launched a nonprofit medical group with 5 providers. Some years ago, one of our neighbors, I don't know what we were talking about or what my sister might have been talking about with her neighbor. They were talking about something, and they said the neighbor suggested that she went to checked out Martin Luther King. And I looked at her surprised, like, what? Because that was the first time I ever heard anyone recommend hospital. Really, I'm laughing to myself, but that was the first time I heard anyone recommend that hospital. So I was like, I looked at her like she was playing, like, girl, but when I realized she wasn't, I was like, Martin Luther King, you talking about? And I think I said, the stigma name, the stigmatized name, or not the stigmatized name, the name that they got from how they, was poorly operating. And she was like, no. She said they got better. And I was like, what? So, yeah. They did get better. And as I said, I really applaud them for really, coming in, actually, doing something other than talk and helping out the community. They have built it up with other smaller businesses out there around the hospital, of course. So with those other smaller businesses in the area, they built up the area itself. They built up the area itself. That is, just think about all the people they have employed from the area. And I hope they have employed a lot of people from the area. Because did you know, I was told years ago, I don't know if it's still on the books, but I was told that when, businesses come into an area, they are required to hire people from the area. Yep. So when you go to a place of business and you see in your area and you see a lot of people like, do you live here? Or do you live like 20 miles away coming here to work? You have a right to question that and ask that business be investigated for unfair hiring practices. You know how many times I threatened businesses about that, and then the next time I went there, the whole demographics changed. Yeah, people get away with what they feel like they can get away with. All right, folks, I hope this video was informative to you as it was to me. Thank you again for your support, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. And I will see you guys in the next video. Have a good day.